What it do, golf fans? Welcome back to the Turn Darks Golf Podcast. This is Liam. Alongside me is Jack. Jack, welcome back. We had a great week in golf. Genesis Invitational. Hideki Matsuyama out of left field on Sunday. Don't call it a comeback. What'd you
Six
think
shots back. Yeah, it was awesome. Shout out to Hideki Matsuyama. He has the most wins of any Asian-born PGA Tour golfer in history now. He was tied with KJ Choi, so that's tremendous and good for him. And as an Iowa Hawkeye, this is hard to say, but he might be the only golfer in the world that can pull off yellow like he does. He looks really good in that pause. But it was great. It was great to see Will Zalatoris in the final round leaderboard there. That was awesome. Once again, we saw Cantlay cannot close. I did see some stuff that he was battling with an injury or an illness, and he kind of woke up, but it's been a couple weeks in a row. Xander kind of fitting in that same mold, maybe that partnership together. They kind of just didn't fumble through with a couple weekends in a row. But it was a great week outside of one particular thing, but great week all together.
I wonder who you could potentially be talking about.
Well, since you asked, he is his middle name is Tonto. He's Tiger Woods. I don't know if I'm buying the illness, to be honest, and that's even coming from me.
Yeah.
He looked okay on Thursday. There were obviously some stuff going on. There were mistakes that he was making that led into, I think, 6 bogeys. And, for anybody that's watched Tiger for 15 years, that's part of his game. Unfortunately, he's really wild with the driver. He's really wild with a lot of shots. But those were some dumb mistakes that he made. And I think competitive rounds are the only way to kind of fix that. But he looked like he was in some serious pain on Friday. That could be illness related. I don't know if he was getting cramps or whatnot, but he didn't look good. And I feel bad for the guy because he is going through physical and mental hell just to play golf.
Yeah, it was brutal to see. Again, once he got in the cart on Friday,
with his hand in his head, I was like, oh, I feel so bad for that guy.
Yeah, it's really tough, but I think going forward, there's just no way you could throw Tiger in any, lineup, betting card, etc.
You say that.
I say that until I see him play 4 rounds again. If he can play 4 rounds in his next tournament, then he ends up back into the same field he was before this week at the Genesis. But if the guy can't, I think in his last 4 tournaments, he's withdrawn from 3 of them.
Hey.
I'm just saying,
just know I'm betting him at 125 to 1 on the Masters still.
I understand people are still gonna bet him, but until he can finish a tournament without having to withdraw, I would generally avoid him. I'd still root for him. I'd still root for him as a person. Hope he does well. If he wins, that's even better.
I just want to have that throw one more time, man.
As a gambler, I'm avoiding him. He was not the only one that had to leave the golf course early. Do we want to talk a little bit about Jordan Spieth?
So that is an interesting one.
Not knowing how to sign a scorecard?
Well, okay, so there's a little bit more information to that. So anybody living under a rock, Jordan Spieth signed an incorrect scorecard. He put a 3 instead of a 4. Got obviously disqualified from the tournament. So some more information has come out. So Michael Kim chimed in and said that 95% of the time, if there's any sort of discrepancy, they go to the on-course or the person. I don't know for anybody that's done competitive golf or the tournament, the person that holds the sign, there's oftentimes a person next to them with a radio that's keeping track of the score and sending that off to the base camp or whoever's keeping track, and they will refer to that person. So there's a chance that they were going over the scores and that person gave an incorrect score. And then Xander Schauffele had an interesting comment that he laid his scorecard down, went to the restroom, and came back, and he was disqualified. So there's a lot of stuff floating around. I don't know what really is the case here. My opinion on it, I understand rules. I understand that penalties need to be in play. But Jordan Spieth is not a guy that the PGA Tour should be disqualifying right now. They need guys that bring in eyeballs to events like this. And it should be a penalty instead of a disqualification, in my opinion.
You think they lose a stroke based on what their score would have been
probably
otherwise?
more. I think it should have been maybe 2 or 3 because it is a disqualification worthy rule. I mean, that's something we're taught in junior golf from those dumb tests that they make you take. But I don't know, man. I don't think that a withdrawal of a top 5 name in a tournament like that can be acceptable.
No, I totally get it. Again, it with those details that kind of came out, it makes it a little funky, and I'm curious what kind of digging and potential changes they'll make because of it, or if any, I guess for that matter. But it's unfortunate to see. I think he was going to make the cut right around what, even par, maybe +1.
Yeah, he was doing fine.
He was okay. But he was doing all right. Again, I'm quite happy about the top of the leaderboard personally. Seeing Hideki win is great. Seeing Will Zalatoris up there is also great. Seeing Cantlay struggle, admittedly, because I didn't have him on Sunday, was kind of nice as well. And then obviously you had, Scotty and a few other guys all kind of rattled up there in the top 10 or so. So anything else you want to talk about this week? Anybody that stood out in terms of, maybe bad play or anything like that?
Talk about it. Yeah. First of all, I don't think anybody saw that coming from Justin Thomas. Fitzy was another guy that was down there.
That's what I was going to talk about.
Yeah, it was just Fitzy. I mean, he should have fit the mold for that course, bread and butter, and he just really didn't show out. And then everyone's talking on golf Twitter right now how Scotty Scheffler finishing 10th is bad. And that's just a testament to how freaking good that guy is. If you're finishing 10th and it's a bad week, holy moly.
Well, and Rory too, I think on Thursday at the end of the day, he was what, T63?
Yeah, he went like eagle birdie just to try and fight for it. Like, it was bad.
Yeah, he did not play very well Thursday. He played decent enough Friday to make the cut. And then he slowly worked his way up, but he never really got up there to really contend. It was always going to be a kind of a middling Rory performance, just in terms of price points. All right, let's cruise on and let's check out DraftKings and FanDuel. How'd your DraftKings lineup do this past week?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah, just.
Well, my top guy on DraftKings was Justin Thomas. So that wasn't great. I think my best guy in that whole lineup was Eric Cole. And he finished I think he might have T10, T15. That didn't do too well. And then FanDuel, I had Justin Thomas just the same. I had some stuff going on last week, so golf, I kind of just scrambled something together and called it a day. But there has been research put into this week, so we're good now.
Definitely. Yeah, Minwoo also didn't play that great last week, right? I see him in your DraftKings lineup.
God, it's so confusing because he's done weirdly bad, but making cuts on the PGA Tour, even though he should be playing a lot better.
I remember somebody had a post on it. They're like, Minwoo Lee is the worst looking decent golfer on tour right now, where he's making cuts, but he's not really getting those top 20, top 30 plays.
32nd overall in the world, and he's finishing on average at 48th place. It's unacceptable.
Yeah, it's not a good look, especially for somebody his caliber. Well, hopefully you can the JT thing is behind you this week, and everybody this week is going to be good.
Yeah.
Again, that was a tough one for a lot of people.
You have to ride that until the train falls off the way,
Yeah, definitely. As far as my DraftKings and FanDuel, pretty much my lineups were super identical. I had Homa on both. He was T16. Morikawa on both. He was T19. Aberg in both. He was also T19. I had Will Zalatoris in DraftKings. That was great. Love that. I had Adam Scott in FanDuel. I had Benny On in both. And then I had Sam Ryder in both. I made money on both DraftKings and FanDuel. FanDuel only in double ups because, again, I had basically 3 guys T19, 2 guys T16, which isn't flashy, but I guess 5 guys top 20 is something that
works.
You can work with. Sam Ryder missed the cut, but again, he was the minimum price. Turns out that I think Seamus Power and Chase Johnson both made the cut on the 6,000.
I couldn't believe Chase Johnson made the cut. Good for that guy.
It was crazy. I knew one of them was going to make the cut. Turns out I just picked the one guy that missed it out of the 3.
Johnson does not play at this caliber of an event, number one.
Yep.
Nor does he play on, PGA Tour pressure. So to go from APGA to this is mind-blowing. I have all the respect in the world for that.
They showed the amount of money he got. He was like in last place
Probably got like
on
80,000,
Sundays.
something like that.
Yeah, he made 80K, which was like on average what he would make for like 2 years, and for normal tour for
Minor
him.
league golf is not pretty unless you're winning.
Which is crazy, but like it's super impressive for the guy. Again, theoretically I pick one of the other guys that's not Sam Ryder, and I make even play even better there. But woulda, coulda, shoulda. I still made money on both. Can't really complain.
Yeah.
All right, we're going into bets.
Gosh, so mad because the guys I had the most confidence in screwed me this week. Like Justin Thomas not being top 20 was crazy. JT Poston I flipped my bets right there. Min Woo Lee top 40 being a loss. Eric Cole top 40 being a winner. Hold on, my notes are way off.
I think you're on the wrong week. Scroll down.
Yeah, I am.
I was gonna say I have Justin Thomas top 20 minus 134 as a loss. Cantlay T20 minus 150 is a winner.
Yeah, so you know what happened? I'm going to be honest. This is embarrassing. I'm going to be honest. So I have what I'm working on right now is a Mac, and the computer I use for my notes is a Dell. So when I scroll like this, it goes up on one and down on another. So when you asked me for my DraftKings and FanDuel earlier, I was looking at the Waste Management.
You still have JT in FanDuel, but you didn't have him in DraftKings. But you did have Tiger Woods in DraftKings.
Yeah, that hurt.
Which didn't help you. So in both lineups, you missed out on somebody that would have been pretty good.
Yeah.
And then now we'll cruise into your bets.
Now I'll get to the real information. I was really confused. I was like, JT top 20, that was a loss. I was riding that till, like I said, it fell off. Cantlay top 20 was a winner. Kurt Kitayama top 40 was a winner. Those odds were criminal though. Tiger Woods top 40 plus 110, that was a loss. Plus 110 for top 40. His made cut number on DraftKings, I think, was like minus 110. Auberg top 20, that was a winner. Nikolai Hoyard top 30 was a loss by like one shot. It was so annoying. Chris Kirk top 30 was a loss, and Nick Taylor top 40 was a winner. Minus 1.39 units, embarrassingly, only up 30.08 units on the year. So I'm sorry, everybody. Rough week. I can't pay the mortgage.
Tisk. I'm so disappointed. All right, as far as my bets, I want to point this out. Jack, we did squad ride Ludwig Auberg, top 20, minus 120. So that was a nice win for both of us. So if you've been following, usually when we both bet the same guy on the same number for the same finish, I think we usually end up losing that one.
Last year it was like 4 for 50 or something like that. It was like 2%.
Yeah, I was gonna say about 1 in 10, maybe 1 in 8 we'd hit on those. Mm-hmm. So the fact that we hit Auberg so early in the season and we both had him is great.
Yeah.
So that was a nice win for me. Max Homa 18th or better at minus 120. He finished 16th. Nice win.
Barely, yeah.
Yeah, we'll take it. Will Zalatoris top 30 minus 163. Again, that was great. Love to see him do well. Matt Fitzpatrick over Tommy Fleetwood plus 100. Again, it should have gone. I'm okay losing it because I won a lot more, but that one was a weird one for me. I had Scotty Scheffler over Rory McIlroy at minus 120. That was a nice win. I had Colin Morikawa 19th or better at minus 120. He finished 19th. So,
by the way, that last, what was it, like 7 holes were awful. He started off, I think, 4 or 5 under, and then went like bogey, and then had some terrible pars to finish out.
Yeah, it wasn't pretty. That one was definitely a sweat. But hey, again, 19th or better, and he got 19th. So we'll take it. And then again, Ludwig Auberg, top 20. Guy finished 19th as well. So I went 5 for 6 on the week. Up 2.93 units. So I'm now currently positive 5.08 units, which you love to see.
Yeah. If you're going to follow bets, 16 units up in the 2024 golf season between the two of us. I mean, if that's not a reason to start paying attention every single week, checking socials, watching the pod, I don't know what is.
Yeah. Yeah, it worked out well. Now, unfortunately, Jack last week did not have winners picks in, and I kind of gave him 2 winners picks. I won't count them against him in terms of his 3 uses for the year. But admittedly, I think I picked 2 people that you don't dislike. I didn't give you, I don't know, Seamus Power and
Sam Ryder,
and Sam Ryder. Like I gave you 2 guys at least you liked. And Auberg did well. I'll say that. I'll give one of your guys.
Yeah, I'm not mad at it. I'm not going to go into it, but like Liam had probably mentioned, I had some personal stuff going on, so golf was at the back of my mind. But I probably still would have chose Tiger Woods.
Okay, I'm not getting pretty good.
I don't think I'm getting 3 uses out of Tiger.
Yeah, I don't think
probably throwing him as in Augusta. You can't count that guy out. I don't care if that guy's got prosthetic legs. He knows Augusta like the back of his hand.
Yep. Yeah. So yeah, again, T19 out of Ludwig, withdraw out of Tiger. My winners picks were pretty solid this week, all things considered. Adam Scott, who really was all over the leaderboard for a while, finished T19, and then again, Will Zalatoris T2. For a guy that has been injured as much as he is and has been all over the place, I don't know if I'm ever going to get a better finish out of than T2 out of Will Zalatoris for the year.
His putting stroke looked really good Sunday too.
It was it looked like it wasn't the worst putting stroke on tour anymore, which is great.
Scotty and Zalatoris need to pair up together.
It's going to be interesting now.
I said in the pod last year too, I was like, if Will Zalatoris goes to Brad Faxon and fixes his putter, he's going to be dangerous. I don't know if he did that, but if he did, I'm taking credit for it.
I think he went to somebody to fix his putter. I remember hearing that. After his back surgery, he spent like 3 months just working on putting with one of the coaches. I don't remember who. So, all right, wild card picks. You got a winner this week.
I did. I picked the winning score to be between -14 and -18, and that was a winner at +180. So I really love that. Took a look at the stats. Took a look at former winners. Scores around there and weather conditions. And I figured we were probably going to see, I thought it was going to be honestly 15 under. Thank you, Hideki, for making it 17 though.
Yeah, there you go. For me, I had Matt Kuchar top 20 at +320. That was a loss. Again, I said last week on the pod, he was either going to finish top 10 or miss the cut, and he missed the cut. So my math checked out. I just picked the wrong side as far as Kuchar goes. So it's okay. It's why it was a wild pick more than anything else. So. All right, we're about to leave one of the better fields as far as talent goes to the year to arguably one of the worst.
I took a look at that field.
We are going to the Mexico Open at Vidanta. Let's just say you could call this the Mexico Open at Vidanta. You could call this the Tony Finau Open.
That's Detroit, baby.
But there's better talent in Detroit as far as that goes. So.
You got that right.
Yeah, it's going to be a brutal week. You're going to have to dig into the weeds. You're not going to have, the JTs and the Jordan Spieth and everybody else here to make your betting lives
should have been
very
Zalatoris. He just withdrew last night, rightfully so. He probably didn't want to make that trip.
Yeah, which makes sense. All right, so Mexico Open, it's par 71, totaling 7,450 yards. This is a very resort style course. So it's going to play extremely easy, and the winning score is going to be somewhere in the realm of 22 to 27 under par. This course is actually normally built out as a par 73, but they're taking 2 par 4s and turning them into par 3s. No. Yeah,
and then so there's only 3 par 5s.
Yes.
And then the normal, what they do is kind of like what you had said. They may have made, a 245-yard par 4 a par 3. Or they may have taken a 502-yard par 5 and made it a 4.
And I think that's what it was. But they took 2 of the holes, made them shorter pars for the pros. And in all honesty, it really won't matter. They will still score plenty easy on this. There is a drivable par 4 on here as well.
There's Brandon Matthews when you need him.
Well, there's a Brandon Matthews light that's going to be in the field this week, and I will get there at a certain point of time. But he's an interesting choice if you want to go that route. One of the things to note, there's going to be extremely generous fairways, which will give an advantage to bombers this week. The fairways range between 40 and 50 yards, depending on the hole for most holes, which explains kind of why in the books do you expect Finau, Hoyard, Keith Mitchell, and Jaeger kind of to be the top of the numbers. Over 60% of approach shots come from 175 yards or further. And when you kind of dig into the metrics, 9 of the top 11 correlated stats this week are all based on approach. The other 2 are based on basically driving.
Yeah, the reason putting is discounted here is because it's past vellum. Basically, it's just a very sandy, grainy green, so it's going to be a lot slower compared to a normal tour green. So it's going to look like probably comparison to if your local club was having a tour championship or a club championship and they cut it down really thin. That's what it's going to play like.
Yeah, so putting this week is going to be fluky. Don't worry if you have somebody who's not really the best known putter, because again, guys that aren't always best putters can still play really well here. All right. Outside of that, do you just want to dig into the DraftKings lineups here? Because I have a ton of information, but I more of it will come out as we dig further into more of these guys in these ranges.
Why don't you go ahead and start us off, Kiss, with the arguable most ridiculous DraftKings pricing in human history.
I kind of love it. I'm going to loop together the 12s, the 11s, and the 10s, by the way, because there's still only 5. Are you cool with that? Are you cool with me looping together those 5?
That's fine. It's all terrible anyway.
So we're starting with Tony Finau at 12,000, and it goes all the way to Thomas Dietrich at 10,100.
Yeah. So I understand the grasp to go Tony Finau right away.
Yep.
I just think it's crazy. So I'm going to spend the next minute here talking about 2 other guys. Number one's Nikolai Hoyard. He's the second highest OWGR in the field. Again, debate for another day on what OWGR stands for. But he's dominated 18 for 19 on cuts on the last calendar year. He's just really, really stepped up. Transition from the DP World Tour to PGA Tour hasn't been amazing, but he's had some couple 30 finishes and whatnot, and runner-up at the Farmers. But let me just tell you, take a look at the field of Farmers, AT&T, and Genesis, and then take a look at the Mexico Open at Vidanta. No disrespect to anybody in here, because those guys would all run through me and lap me on a golf course, and I'm not ashamed to admit that. But you're taking a look at the second highest OWGR at a discount of $1,300 right away. That's going to bankroll you from getting one of those local guys at $5,800 to now looking at maybe a $7,400 guy. There's a guy like that, and I really like that. Not the longest hitter by any means, but he's got the juice, and I really like that guy.
Yeah, we didn't really state it to start it off, but one of the interesting things that DraftKings did this week was they adjusted pricing to go that the stone minimum is now at 5,000. So it's going to add a little more flexibility / volatility.
You're going to see some of your high value, depending on how high you play. If you play $1, you're probably going to be right on the middle line.
Yep.
You might see some of these, if you play $1,000 entry, anything like that, you're probably going to see one of those guys down there and go, who the heck is that? And somebody's taking a flyer trying to get those placement points.
Yeah, and it usually will work on a course like this. Again, this course has only been PGA Tour level course for 2 years now. But each of the last 2 years, there has been somebody in that bottom 500 point range in terms of cost that has come up and basically finished top 20. So somebody's going to do it. You just kind of have to figure out who you want to take the chance on.
Yeah,
which is scary, and that's a big risk and
it's scary,
big challenge.
I may have a name down there, but staying up here at the top, the other guy, Thornbjorn Olesen. If you don't live under a rock, you know who this is. If you don't, you're like, who the heck is this Danish guy that's 10,300? I don't know who this guy is. He's a rock star. He's supposed to be the next up and coming thing in the DP World Tour, and has kind of held his own. Struggles. He's kind of like a little bit like Sam Burns, who's going to be in that top 10 range or kind of fall off right around the cut line. In the World Tour, he's just been absolutely dominating it. I think it's like 3 or 4 top 10s in his last 5 starts. Guy's rocking the ball, and he's a bomber. So 10,300 for a guy like that, or 10,300. Yeah. I think, in my opinion, you can probably even get both those guys to start your lineup and save on a guy like Tony Finau, and then jumping down to an EVR.
Yeah, I mean, I'm gonna start it. I think Tony Finau is the class of this field.
Oh yeah,
he's got the best record on this golf course. He's a great course fit. You could argue that he doesn't have the best form coming into this event, but the last 2 years he's finished second and first. Again, that was against Jon Rahm, who's now on LIV, so he can't play on this event. So Which is unfortunate. Jack's giving the thumbs down, but with him gone again, I think it's Tony Finau has just a chance to go to the moon. He's played bad coming into this event before. It doesn't matter. He seems to find it at this course. I don't know if it's because he takes the whole family on vacation to Mexico and just decides to play.
He takes them everywhere, dude.
He does, but like taking them all to Mexico that's got to be fun for the expenses. But again, I think
they're doing just fine.
Well, yeah, I think he is too, but it's still not fun on the expenses. But I think Tony Finau, again, as high as he is at 12,000, he's a viable option if you want to get there. Emiliano Grillo, it doesn't make sense for me why he's here. He's played well at this event, so I get it. I think he finished 6th here last year and then right around 30th the year before. This is the kind of guy that does well when he's in the right at the bottom 7K range and there's not a lot of expectation on him. He can do well on this course, but for him to pay out at an 11,100 price, he's basically got to be top 15. Maybe top 20.
Yeah,
and
I understand.
And that's kind of his ceiling.
The form he's coming in. He's got three top 20 finishes in his last 5, and one was a 22.
Yep.
But that is a ridiculous price considering you're looking at Hoyard, Olesen, Dietrich. If you put Grillo at 10,100, I can give you an argument. But the second highest guy, that's criminal. It's criminal.
I think based on the amount of performance here, I think Hoyard could be 11-1. I think Jaeger could probably go up to 10-7 and nobody would question it because Jaeger's been up that high in other tournaments as well. And then I think if you take Grillo and you put him in at right around that 99, 98 price, I think that's the spot he should be personally.
Yeah, you're probably going to see Jaeger at 10,700 like the JDC or something.
Yeah, in one of these other quote unquote weaker events, depending on who you ask. But so that's why it's funky to me to see him this high up. I think there's very little opportunity for him to improve upon the price that he cost. I'll mention Dietrich. He's got 3 straight top 30 results, which included a chance to win kind of at Torrey Pines. The biggest concern for Dietrich, if you have any, is that he's lost strokes on approach in each of his last 3 starts. It's not, make or break. I still think he'll make the cut, but I think it hurts his upside. Jack and I have talked a lot about Dietrich. He's usually a guy that finishes right around, T30 to T50. And I just don't know if he has that necessarily win equity on this style of course, especially considering, again, his approach play hasn't been on peak performance recently.
Yeah, Dietrich's one of those interesting ones because he's coming into it with really good form. And he's head and shoulders above a lot of the guys in the field. Approach number is a little scary. I will give you that. But I think that coming into it with form, he's put himself in a chance to win. I think this could be a really good event that he kind of maybe gets even over that hump. He gets in another leaderboard finish come Sunday. I don't know about a win. I'd be happy for it because, I've talked about Dietrich 35 in the last 60 weeks. But I don't know. I like it, but 2 top 10s and 15 starts in his last 15. It's not great, but I think he's getting there. I think he's getting a little more confidence.
I think he's the safety valve. If you want somebody who's going to make a cut and finish somewhere in the realm of 15th to 40th, he's your guy.
Yeah.
But again, I just don't see the upside. And if I'm paying 10K, I want a guy that I think can win.
That's fair.
All right. Into the 9K range we go. We have Keith Mitchell at 9,900, all the way down to Mark Hubbard at the $9,000 number.
Well, homeless Hubbard, no offense, he shouldn't be here. Keith Mitchell, I call him the GOAT just for fun because he's awesome. If you ever heard his interviews with Sung J M talking about American football in Georgia, it's awesome. He's a really good guy. He rocks the visor and those mint pants that are hard to look at. He's coming into it with the most strokes gained on the PGA Tour this season in 2024. Course suits him really well. He's a bomber. A lot of the courses that he struggles at is when really thick rough comes into play, and that's not going to be the case this week. You take a look at the Farmers, which was his last really bad performance. That's really terrible, thick, grabby rough. It's kind of like if you're if everyone's planted sod before and they know that string, that yellow net that's underneath, that's what playing in Torrey Pines rough is. So events like that really come into play, he's going to struggle at. But I think the GOAT Keith Mitchell is really going to dominate. And then just below him, Taylor Pendrith. let me just say this. You take a look at his DraftKings, you see like 950, 10. He has, and I have a note here that I'll say it in just a little bit again. In his last 13 events, he has 7 top 15s and 6 miscuts. So there's volatility, but again, this is the worst field he's going to play in all year by a county mile.
Outside of maybe like the John Deere or the Bermuda, if he plays neither of those.
No, dude, those are going to be so much better, I think. But and then you can never count out my guy Rio Hisasune. He's a baller. He's dominating in the OWGR points right now. He's skyrocketed. He's young. You're going to see him on tour, hopefully for like the next 15 years.
Yeah.
Not the longest hitter on tour, but his iron play is just unbelievable. And his scrambling numbers are like top 5 in the world.
He came in like a fireball the first couple of weeks, like especially right around Sony. He's quote unquote cooled it off, depending on who you ask. He's not contending for wins as much anymore, which again, I don't anticipate he will, every week anyways. But he's kind of settled in, and I'm quite comfortable with this price here if you want to get to it. Again, I don't know if this is a course that necessarily suits him perfectly, but I don't blame you if you go to him.
Yeah.
All right. I'm going to talk about a couple of guys you already mentioned. Keith Mitchell has 3 top 30 finishes and 5 starts this year, including a tied for 17th in the Waste Management in Phoenix. You kind of talked about it. Again, he's an elite driver of the golf ball, and he's got elite approach play. Biggest weakness, putter. You can get past that here. Taylor Pendrith, he ranks 8th in the field in carry distance and 10th in strokes gained off the tee. Jack kind of talked about it, though. The guy's either going to finish top 20 or miss the cut. So he's going to be extremely volatile. If you're in single entries and you need somebody that has the upside, he's a pretty good option to get to. But again, there's just a volatility there that scares me. Brandon Wu, he has some of the best course history on this course outside of Rahm and Finau, as well as some of the best stats. If you take out the bad weather he dealt with at Waste Management, he was a part of the group that, got stuck in the rain with all the garbage. He is 5 for 6 on making the cut with 3 top 30s coming into here. So he's got good form. And then again, if you look at his last finishes, he's finished 3rd and 2nd here in the 2 years this event has taken place.
Pretty dang good.
So I'm quite comfortable with him, especially at 9,100, kind of down here in the bottom. I think he's a valid option to get to.
Yeah, I agree. I don't hate anybody in this range. It's definitely weird to see a guy like Rio, who's normally like 6,800, go jump to 9,200.
Yeah.
Mackenzie Hughes and EVR are both playing well. I don't think you can necessarily. I think if you're about $8,600 and above, there's nothing that I'm going, you should not play this guy in this event, because everybody below 8,600 is a step ladder below in competition. Now, granted, there's going to be cases for everybody, but the top 15 guys are going to be, I bet 10 of them finish within the top 30.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think as far as Pendrith goes, if you want somebody that's boom bust, I personally have a guy in the 6K range I like. I have a guy in the 5K range that I don't hate either on that. I wouldn't necessarily waste a guy at 96, 9,700 as a potential high upside play. I want somebody with win equity, but also just a little bit of safety on the back end as well. We didn't really talk about Steven Yeager. He also is like a similar style Keith Mitchell. He finished 3rd at the Farmers. He finished 71st at the AT&T Pebble Beach. He should fit this course well, but he equally, just like Griot, tends to play better when expectations are lower on him. I don't have any statistical reason why he's not a good option this week, but just based on previous times of him being in this similar of a situation, he just doesn't perform to the expectations expected of him.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. We're on the same boat there. Let's dig into the 8K range. We got Davis Thompson all the way down to Austin Eckroat.
Yeah, so a couple guys in this range that are going to be really interesting. Number one is Jake Knapp. Burst onto the scene a couple weeks ago, and that guy freaking hits the ball a mile. My only concern, and a lot of young players talk about this, is they get into a little bit of a groove, and then there's an event like this that comes up. I think Jordan Spieth talked about it was coming up. Justin Thomas did the same. there's an event that you put yourself to go, now I think I can win this. There's always an event. And when you put the pressure and expectations on yourself, sometimes it flops. And I'm not saying he's done that, but a lot of players on the come up have mentioned something along those lines. And it is a little scary to me that this field is, again, no disrespect to anybody in here, is very low. So if you're going to pick a guy in this 8K range for me, I think a lot of these guys are extremely volatile.
Yep.
I am leaning a little bit more toward Doug Gim. He is riding in with tremendous performance. And like we talked about last year at this time, waste management. And then a couple weeks before he dominates, some weird events he dominates, and then you'll see him pop off in like the US Open. So you got to pick and choose your moments here.
Yeah, Gim I don't think he made the cut here in his last time out. And again, he's been a little sporadic to start the year, but he's another guy that I think he has the tour pedigree that he should be okay in this type of a situation. Davis Thompson is a bit of an option. Where's my notes on him? What's he got going on? So he's, again, an incredibly power driver of the golf ball. He ranks third in this field in strokes gained off the tee, which is crazy. He used to be a number one amateur in the world. Wait, right? That he was a number one amateur in the world?
I don't remember him being the number one AM in the world. It's possible. AM rankings over the last 5 years have flip-flopped dramatically with.
But he's up there, right? Like top 5?
He was up there. He was one of the last golfers to contend as an amateur.
Got it. Maybe that's what I'm thinking of as far as the finishing goes. So again, with the power on the behind the golf ball off the tee, he's an option. He's probably not my favorite option. I actually really like Jake Knapp. At 8,700, he's top 50 on tour in approach, driving distance, and putting. And again, he's on an absolute heater. So I'm happy with him this week in a relatively weak field. I thought that he might have been the same price as like Eric Van Rooyen at 9,500. So the fact that he's 8,700 is great because I think he's probably the bottom of that same tier. You know, you get him, Davis Thompson, Brandon Wu are probably those last 3 guys in that top tier. You can include Doug Gim in that too if you want.
Gim Reaper.
Yep. Cam Champ, 8,600. He's basically Taylor Pendrith, but $1,000 cheaper in my opinion. That's basically what you're getting there. I won't dig too much farther into it. Guy hits the ball a country mile. You don't know if he's finishing first or last.
Yeah, he really started off so well though. You know, he put those couple 20 finishes back to back. It was really well. But he scares me a little bit. He's volatile. I can say the same thing about Pendrith. Yep. I trust Pendrith a little more because he's been there and proven it on finishing some leaderboards, but a little bit of a discount's never going to be bad. Below him, Charlie Hoffman. Yep. I am sorry, but if you're taking him, you're just riding form. That guy does not hit it far. He's got a 3/4 chip shot swing. So when Cam Champ is hitting a 7-iron, that guy's probably hitting a 4 hybrid. So you're just losing accuracy. And I don't know the numbers offhand for his 175 and up approach play, but it cannot be good enough to play this.
No, it's not spectacular. I dug into his driving distance and he was like bottom 3rd on tour. And I was like, all right, well, that's all I need to know about Chuck Nasty, Charlie Hoffman. So we're going to leave him there. In my opinion, one of the potentially most mispriced guys in terms of him being too low is probably Maverick McNeely. If this was Maverick McNeely from a year or 2 ago, he would have been Emiliano Grillo's price. So the fact that he's 8,000 I think is a pretty good discount. I think he's only this low personally because of injury. Is this the perfect course for him? No, because he's a little bit more of a putter. But he's got plenty of distance where he's needed, and his irons are just fine as well. And again, the big thing now is that he's healthy, and he has 3 straight top 40s, including a 6th at the waste management coming into the event. So I think at 8,100, he could probably be your 3rd, potentially 4th guy. If again, that's a name I know and a name I feel pretty comfortable with being my 3rd or 4th guy, and I think that's the important part there.
It's fair.
Last guy I'll mention is Austin Eckroat. He's finished 42nd.
Good-looking gentleman.
Good-looking gentleman, yep. Finished 42nd or better in 5 of his last 6 PGA Tour starts. He's got great driving distance metrics for this course. He's just a valid option if you want to get to him at that 8K point. It seems to be that I made a lot of test lineups throughout the day to kind of figure out what made sense, and I kept ending up in this low 8K range. So I've been trying to find a couple guys I like because I have a gut feeling I won't be the only one that ends up in this area where I'm trying to find someone.
Yeah, and he played at Oklahoma State, so they're used to that sandy grain grass, so could pay
Yep.
off on the greens. I know putting's not the biggest metric in the world, but if you're looking for a separator, there it is.
Yeah, I think he's kind of the end of another tier break in my opinion, where there's you start to get into basically shoot from the hip and hope you get lucky with a lot of these guys.
Yeah.
All right, into the 7K range we go. We have S.H. Kim at 7,900, all the way down to Robert.
Fairway, yeah.
Wow, Robert McIntyre is 7,000 in this field.
Yeah.
Let
me just say real quick, this is a scary 7K.
Yeah.
There's only one guy that I'm sticking my reputation behind. His name is Sam Stevens.
Yep, same guy.
Yep, he's made the cut 4 events in 2024. It's not the season, the year. He's 18th on tour and approaching 200 plus, and he's actually 12th in distance on carry. I have a bet on him, so I'm going to say a couple more metrics that I'm going to read into. So stick around and keep listening for that. I have no issue. JJ Spawn, who was the #1 in bogey avoidance in the entire calendar year last year, he was really good. Grayson Sigg has a possibility to bounce back, not looking great. Robert McIntyre, I don't know why he's 7K, should be higher. I don't know offhand his statistics on a very flat resort style course, but 7K for a guy like that who's going to be 8,500 at the Open's criminal.
Yeah, he hasn't been playing well, so I think that's why they're throwing him down here to try and draw up some interest in picking him, which I totally get.
Yeah.
I'm high on Sam Stevens too. Again, he's 7,100 in this field. On a normal field with 25 of the top 30, the guy is 7,000. So his price point in a weak field on a course that doesn't necessarily fit him perfectly, but fits him pretty well. He does best on longer courses. If you look, some of his worst finishes are like RSM Classic, Sony Open, like short courses where you got to be like really, tuned into what you're looking for. Those are his worst finishes on tour. When he can sit out here and just crush the golf ball a little bit and hang out, that's when he plays best. So I love him at 7,100. Other guys in like that high 7K range that are options, if you're just looking for somebody that's got that kind of driving distance upside, you got S.H. Kim, Nate Lashley, Alejandro Tosti, and Johnny Vegas. They all come with their own set of drawbacks on why they're not my favorite options. But again, on a week where driving distance is super important, I think those guys are options. I think I would probably go with S.H. Kim or maybe a Toasty than the other two. But again, I prefer none of them, respectfully. Give me Sam Stevens.
Get me out of here. Get me out of here. That's what I'm thinking.
Yeah. Let me think. Is there anybody else in this range that even peaks in? No, not really.
No,
Jesus.
The only guy, Nate Lashley, he is a guy that I'm fading like the wind. This is the first guy that I'm going to tell you not to play. He has only looked good in 1 week this year.
Yeah.
He has looked criminally bad. The only time he played well was Farmers, and that's position play. And he really played that to perfection. Outside of that, he has just been all over the place. Yeah. So, of course, now that accuracy is condensed, I don't think this is the play for him.
Yeah, I was looking at Gotterup because I was like, maybe Gotterup's an option, but the guy's missed 3 of his last 4 cuts. He's known for his putter, which doesn't mean anything here if he
go back to KFT.
Yeah, exactly. I'm like, doesn't mean an absolute thing. So yeah, I would go Sam Stevens, or I would try and get up to 8K range and get Eckert, McNeely, Michael Kim, one of those guys instead.
Play a safe lineup. Just start at 9K and try to feed it off there.
There you go. Well, there's other ways you can avoid that range, and not to give too much of my lineup away, but there's ways to avoid it.
Yeah.
All right, into the 6K range we go. We've got Tyler Duncan all the way down to Kevin Chappell.
Kevin Chappell's? Oh, sorry, I forgot it goes down to 5K. I'm like, yeah. So let's just be really real here.
Yep.
There are some guys in here like a Parker Cootie, who, if you watched golf, he dominated for 1 week and sucks the rest. There's going to be a guy in here like Garrick Higo that you see dominate once a year, and you remember the name, and you're going to pick him. This is a very scary spot, and I think there's going to be there's a lot of traps here for a lot of people that started off with like a Tony Finau and then tried to pair it with Nikolai Hoyard. Someone's going to dump down here and try to pick a name that they recognize. Dumont's going to be another one.
Yep.
One of the guys that I think really stands out for me, his name is Jorge Campillo. Now, he's 109th in the OWGR. He's played 5 events in 2024 already. Last time he played golf, finished 5th in the Qatar Masters. So his DraftKings, I don't know why it is not up to date on what he's done in the DP World Tour and on the Mexican Tour. But he should be able to compete. He's playing on the DP World Tour, transitioning over where 20, 25 guys are local guys. He should be able to compete. And his average driving distance is higher in terms of what the Mexican Tour brings than anything else. So at 6,400, I mean, he's an option. I don't hate it.
Yeah, there's a few options here that I'm gonna start with for me. If you want, Taylor Pendrith and Cam Champ, but over $2,000 cheaper, go Joseph Bramlett at 6,800. I think he is, again, a similar version of those other two. He's top 60 in tour and strokes gained off the tee and driving distance, top 49th in strokes gained putting. Again, he's just a cheaper carbon copy of the other two, in my opinion. And I'd feel much more comfortable getting to his price as your, 5th, 6th guy, as opposed to dealing with the other two. And that way, if you miss a cut, you're missing a cut on your lowest price guy potentially.
Yeah.
I think that's the option to go through here. Joe Highsmith, he's the oh my gosh, who's the distance guy we've given so much grief to over the years?
Brandon Matthews.
Yes, he is Brandon Matthews light. He's got plenty of distance. You can try and dig into his PGA Tour profile list, but it's not really there all that much. There's not a lot of information on him.
Just for reference, some of these guys in the field are not even registered with the OWGR. That is the kind of field we're dealing with.
Yeah, it makes sense. So yeah, Highsmith is at Brandon Matthews light at 6,600. I'm going to mention just some of these rookies again, because I think there's more upside with them as opposed to some of the other just crappy options that are around. Ben Coles is an interesting choice. He's missed his last 2 cuts, but he started out well at the RSM. It's not the worst option. And again, he's got the distance. Adrian Dumont Chazarette, which you mentioned previously, he started out slow, but has actually made his last 2 cuts. Which is extremely promising on that front. So we love that. He's also top. Adrian's a bit of an interesting character too, because he's top 40 in driving distance and total driving. Again, he's a risk, but especially at a cheap price like this, I think he's worth a flyer if you're stuck down here as opposed to some of the other options. And then I was looking for one more rookie. Is he in the 5K
I could
range?
talk about Davis Riley is in this category too. He's one of those guys. If you take a look last year, he was like the #1 guy for birdies on tour. So like Liam had said earlier, this event's going to get to well over 20 over or 20 under. Yeah. That's a guy that can really put it out there. And if anybody's interested, Cristobal Del Solar is the guy that shot 57 at that Corn Ferry Tour event. He is in this event. So if you want somebody to look for and root for, because you saw him on Instagram and everybody in the world talked about him, there's another guy right there.
Yeah, it's a valid option. Last guy I'll mention, again, he doesn't really fit this course all too well. But he's been around tours so long that he's got a good chance of still squeaking a cut. Francesco Molinari at 6,100 is an interesting option. Again, the biggest challenge is the guy does not have the driving distance to succeed here. So that is going to be a bit of a small red flag. But he's definitely got the skills to overcome it otherwise. Again, I like other options better, but if you're sitting there and you're like, I don't want to play a rookie, I would rather play somebody old who's been on tour for a while, he's probably one of your best options in this range.
He knows how to get it done. Yeah.
Yep. Yeah, exactly. All right. Are we going to dig into this 5K range here?
Well, let me tell you. You want a diamond in the rough, Liam?
Yeah.
His name is Sebastian Vasquez. He is 5,100. 5,100.
Okay.
He's made one start in the PGA Tour in the calendar, or the last calendar year. He finished 38th at the WWTC. In his last 10 starts, he's finished top 40 in 7 of those. And in those 7, 4 are top 10s. So this kid can score. He can finish. Putting is not his strong suit, and that doesn't matter here. If you're looking to maximize your profit and find a diamond in the rough, 5,100, spoiler alert, I might have top loaded my lineup coming up. 5,100 for this kid is a steal, and I am playing this drastically.
I want you to know, I just pulled up his profile on DraftKings. He might look 17 years old, and that might be generous. But he looks extremely young, and that's okay. But that is kind of funny. I'm going to start off at 5,800, I want to say. Fred Biondi is the first guy I'm going to talk about. He was tied 13th at Bermuda in November, T23 at RSM. He also had 2 more top 20s on the Corn Ferry Tour, one in Panama, one in the Bahamas. If you're keeping track there, I just named basically 4 coastal/Caribbean style courses.
With weaker fields.
With weaker fields. And again, he's 5,800. So he's a rookie. Do I think he's going to win? No, but is he somebody that I think could make the cut? Especially considering he was the collegiate national champion last year. I think it's a valid option if you want to get to Fred Biondi at 5,800. Let's see. Who else did I like? I'm going to mention Callum Tarrant. He hasn't been playing well at all. If you look at his PGA Tour profile, you might gag a little bit depending on what you see. But he's top 20 on tour in driving distance and total driving. He hasn't made a cut on tour yet this season.
But that's why you should pick him, guys. That's why you listen to Turd Dog Golf Podcast.
But again, at 5,600, if there's any course he's going to make a cut at, it's going to be one that's purely driving distance, which is what he's looking at this week. His biggest weakness is driving accuracy. He has the ability to avoid that this week. The last guy I'm going to mention is James Hahn at 5,300.
You're going to pick somebody else.
No, who are you thinking I was going with?
Mustache Man, 5,900. Chandler Phillips.
I thought about going Phillips, but he doesn't fit this course perfectly. He doesn't fit it very well, unfortunately. Again, Chandler Phillips, if you don't know, I had him, was that 3-4 weeks ago now? I threw him in at the bottom of the lineup. I think he was like close to minimum price, and he made me some nice money that week, so I probably owe him a play at some point or another. But no, I'm going to go James Hahn at 5,300. He's 42nd in strokes gained off the tee, 29th in total driving, and 31st in driving accuracy. Don't look at his putting. He's, I think, bottom 10 on tour. It showed like 187th, I want to say, on the PGA Tour app. So it's not pretty. But again, he's got the other metrics that could fit this course really well. And at $5,300, there's not going to be a lot of other cheap options. One thing I will say another guy at 5,300, Rico Hoye. I don't know if you remember him, but I want to say at the American Express, he went out on Thursday, shot a 63, was top 5, and then ended up missing the cut by shooting even par and 2 over on Friday and Saturday. So it is ugly. But
play that as your top 10 first round leader and then call it a day.
Well, that's exactly what I was going to say. I was like, Rico could be a potentially interesting top 10, top 20 first round.
If you're making a Thursday only lineup or, whatnot, you could do that.
So Rico Hoye, 5,300. That would be your guy to look for. So
Liam said it, not me.
Hey, I'm not telling you to play him. I'm just letting you know that he was like tied for the lead or in like top 5 at the Amex before he decided just to not hit a golf ball again for the rest of the weekend.
And let me just say, for anyone that's new here for this week that was just trying to gain an edge, normally this is the range, the last 2 ranges we spend the most time on trying to find your diamonds in the rough. This is a rough one. A lot of rookies, a lot of Corn Ferry, a lot of Champions Tour, and a lot of local golfers from the Mexican and Spain Tour will come on this event. Not a lot of history. And if there is history, it's not comparable to the PGA Tour guys. So a ton of information available that does not apply. So that's why we're only picking a couple guys to really highlight that stand out versus, they may in the news talk about this guy being a rookie and coming up and all this stuff. we're more information based than storyline.
Yeah, I'll say this. I don't think anybody has to be talked into playing Tony Finau this week. You're either going to play him or you're not. But Sebastian Vasquez, who Jack talked about, you might not know a single thing about him, and you might be like, okay, well maybe now I'll look his way a little bit more. Or James Hahn, you know what? I needed somebody cheap, so James Hahn's an option. Joseph Bramlett, some of those guys that to fill out the rest of your lineups.
Yeah.
So, all right, into the DraftKings lineups we go.
Well, let's do it. Thorbjorn Olesen, 10,300 to start my lineup. I went pretty top heavy. The GOAT Keith Mitchell, 9,900. Rio Hisasune, 9,200. Gim Reaper, 8,800. Jorge Campillo, 6,400. And Sebastian Vasquez, $5,100. You're welcome, ladies and gentlemen.
That starting with Thorbjorn Olesen scares the bejesus out of me personally. I get it.
Ready for my FanDuel then.
I get it, but that is going to be an interesting lineup, though. I'm curious / excited how that goes for you. For my DraftKings lineup, I'm starting with Tony Finau at 12,000. Second, give me Brandon Wu at 9,100. Third, give me Jake Knapp at 8,700. Fourth, give me Maverick McNeely at 8,100. Fifth, give me Joseph Bramlett at 6,800. And last but not least, give me James Hahn at 5,300. It's tough week, but again, I feel pretty nice about those other 5 guys, all things considered.
Yeah. Well, my FanDuel lineup, it's very different, very different. Thorbjorn Olesen, Keith Mitchell.
Okay.
I did sneak in Taylor Pendrith in there at 10,800. Rio Hisasune. I went Doug Gim again. And my guy, Sebastian Vasquez, to round us off. So I normally I try to split a lot of guys up, and I'm trying to make one or the other. I want safety play this week. I'm either winning them both or losing them both. Might not be the best method, but I pick guys that I feel structurally are really good. And I think that'll maximize my opportunities this week.
That's usually the way I go about it. So you're kind of pulling the Liam strategy there, and you got 3 or 4 guys that are going to fit in both lineups, which is going to either make or break things a lot easier for you. As far as my FanDuel lineup goes, I'm starting again. Tony Finau, 12,300. Second, give me Brandon Wu at 10,500. Third, give me Jake Knapp at 10,300. Fourth, give me Davis Thompson at 9,900. Fifth, give me Maverick McNeely at 9,400. And sixth, give me Adrian Dumont de Cesarette at 7,700. So, again, feel really great about those top 5. If that 6th guy just makes a cut, I'm going to be pretty happy.
Yeah. I don't hate it, that's for sure. I think Maverick McNeely's the only one I'm really scared of. And maybe Jake Knapp a little bit, but that's more of a storyline thing that I've heard, not necessarily performance-based, so there's nothing wrong with that. But that's definitely a boom or bust lineup right there.
Yeah, it's I think Maverick's mispriced, so I feel a little better about that. I think Adrian scares me a little bit. I mean, Davis Thompson honestly is the biggest one there, where I thought about switching off of him, but I think I just have to accept it and hope that these guys play well.
I get that.
So, all right, into bets.
Yes, please. I talked about not the greatest event, not the greatest field. I only have 10 bets. So a lot of guys are going to be similar, but I have a little bit more information for you for those who stuck around. Number 1, Thorbjorn Olesen, top 40. Again, these are odds come out Monday. They may fluctuate. They may get higher or get made lower. You'll find my end of the week best bets on Twitter and social, so check that out. Thornborn top 40 minus 175. Like I said, OWGR 59, number 3 in the field. The last time he played, he won, and he won by 6 shots, and he shot 27 under. This kid can score. In that top 40 mark, he's hit this worldwide in his last 8 starts. The only one he missed was a withdraw in that 9th. And he's had 5 top 10s in his last 7 events. Gaining 1.56 shots on average on the field. Guy's a baller. Guy's a monster. He can score. Top 40 should be really good. Keith Mitchell, top 40. That is minus 160. Like I said earlier, leading the PGA Tour in strokes gained. Kind of left a part out on accident when he makes the cut. That was an accidental mishit. But he's hit this in 3 of 5 events on 2024. The ones he missed were courses that did not fit his mold in the entirety, and he just played them. This is by far the weakest field on tour. And he's 4th off the tee and number 4 in approach on 200 yards plus. So he's going to probably be very few and far between on those 200 yard plus with his distance, but it's there. Ryo Hisasune, top 42 in ties. He was on a tear prior to getting to Waste Management. Kind of one hiccup. It is what it is, kind of what we said about Eric Cole. But he hit 42 or better in 9 straight. And he's averaging a placement in 16.5 in those 9 events. So incredible placement.
Yeah, one of the reasons too that Ryo didn't play as well Waste Management, he was also on that side of the weather too that sucked.
Yeah.
So again, you kind of have to wash that out of your memory and realize that again, there's no weather challenges in Puerto Vallarta this week. We'll just say that.
Yeah. And all of his numbers in terms of drive distance and approach are pretty average on tour, but in a field like this, now it's above average. So yeah. I envision 42 shouldn't be an issue. My favorite bet of the week, Sebastian Vasquez, top 40, plus 375. Should that be a wild card? Yeah. Is it my real bet? Yeah. So like I said, 38th at the WWTC in the last PGA Tour start. This kid can score. He really can. In his last 10 starts, hit top 40 in 7. In those 7, 4 top 10s. So 40% of your starts in the last 10 are top 10s. This kid can score. And if you're playing against a half PGA Tour field, I think that cuts out a lot of guys. In reality, if he makes the cut, I'm happy because that's my DFS play. But if he finishes 39th, cha-ching. Jorge Campillo, top 40 is plus 175. Like I said earlier, 109 on the OWGR, and he's played 5 events in 2024 already, so he's active. He's hit top 40 in 3 out of 5, including a 5th place at the Qatar Masters. Pretty good driving distance, all things considered, not necessarily required in a lot of these Mexican Tour events. But he's also played a ton on the DP World Tour, so he's used to this elevated competition, which I think is really nice. Doug Gim, 42 in ties or better. He is a streaky golfer, but his last 2 starts are T12 and T13, coming into it with form. He placed 33rd here in 2022. He's 11th in strokes gained total. And then 6th from tee to green. He's 29th in bogey avoidance, not necessarily the biggest factor in here, but when you're playing a lot of par 4s that are 450 plus, if you can get a par on a lot of those, you're in good shape. Nikolai Hoyard, top 30, minus 143, finished 33rd last year, but this is a way better field than it was, and he's a way better golfer than he is. Second highest OWGR in the field. He's hit top 30 in 5 of his last 7 events. His only miss was 31 and 37. Guys in play every single time. He's above average in all distance and strokes gained measures, and he's number 2 on tour in 175 yard striker. Taylor Pendrith, top 40. That's minus 175, looking for just a bankroll builder. He's either going to be a miscut or he's going to be a top 15. I probably should have done him at like top 20 and called it a day.
Yep.
But he's 5th in strokes gained total on tour with 6 miscuts. So when this guy's on, he is on. He's 7th in approach from 175 and up, and he was 30th last year. So if he replicates it, I'm happy. Dietrich, top 40, a guy that you mentioned a little bit earlier, 67th OWGR. He's hit top 40 in his last 3 events and 4 in the last 5. He's looked really competitive in his last 3. This could be a field that really gets him over the hump. He's 39th in driving distance and 4th in total driving, 47th in strokes gained total, and only lacks a little bit of chipping. So it's not really a big deal. And I think with this weather, he's going to really gain a little bit of advantage. And last but not least, Sam Stevens, top 40, plus 225. Like we talked about, made the cut in 4 events in 2024. Talked a little bit of his approach and driver game. But here's a little bit of information on the comp course history that he has over the last 2 years. He finished 2nd in San Antonio last year, 3rd in Corrales in 2023, 15th at Grand Reserve in 2023, and this year he finished 28th at TPC Scottsdale and 24th at Craig Ranch. So top 40 at 225. that is about as good as you're going to find anywhere.
I'm surprised that you like Sam Stevens. I know I've been a bit of a fan of his the last couple of months, so it's nice to see that you can rely on him this week as opposed to me. I could just hang back and hope he does decently.
Yeah, for once I took your guy versus you taking mine.
Yeah, I was doing a little bit of research here, just double checking something for later. I wanted to make sure my math was right, and I'll get to it in a little bit. But you have some interesting bets. I have 6 bets. None of our bets overlap this week.
16 bets and no overlap in this field is criminal.
Which is crazy, yeah. My first bet is Jake Knapp over Eric Van Reen at plus 100. Again, I just have the Jake Knapp train rolling. I'm gonna he's been playing well. I'm gonna keep it going until he doesn't have it anymore. I have Brandon Wu top 40 at minus 140. Again, this guy has finished second and third here respectfully. I'm comfortable giving him 37 spots of leeway from that third place for him to finish this year. My next bet is 2 guys that we didn't really talk about a ton, but S.H. Kim over K.H. Lee. S.H. Kim is an elite driver of the golf ball. K.H. Lee is not. This is not his style of course. So I'm comfortable betting on the guy who really kind of fits the mold of this way better at minus 125. I have Maverick McNeely, top 40 at plus 100. I have Ryan Fox over Harrison Endicott and Aaron Baddeley at minus 105. Again, I think it's known commodity Ryan Fox over two guys.
Yeah, it's going to be Ryan Fox versus Harrison Endicott. Aaron Baddeley's not playing a factor
here. Basically, yeah. I mean, with all respect to Aaron Baddeley, we love him, but the guy is known for being a putter, and this is not really the course that is going to fit into his wheelhouse. So I'm comfortable basically getting even odds for Ryan Fox over Harrison Endicott, personally. My last one is Paul Barjon over Victor Perez. Now, you might sit there and be like, you guys didn't mention either of those guys. Both of them have sucked so far to start the season. Basically, is the best way to say it. Paul Barjon is 1 for 3 on making the cut. Victor Perez is 0 for 3 on making the cut. But one of these guys fits the course 1,000 times more than the other, and he's also got plus odds on sports books. To put it in comparison, Paul Barjon is top 30 in driving distance and 15th on tour with approach from 175 yards plus. Victor Perez is 183rd on tour in driving distance. Driving distance is not his cup of tea. Again, I'm getting plus money on that. I know that they're both not, elite level golfers, but that is a chance I'm willing to take just based on the numbers alone.
Yeah.
So
I don't hate that one bit.
Yeah, those are my 6. I know that the one that probably scares you the most is Knapp over EVR. You don't even have to say it out loud. I could just read your facial expressions on those. But again, I have a good feeling I'm going to keep on rolling with Knapp until he stops playing well, basically.
Yeah, you gotta hope EVR play. I don't think Knapp's gonna play bad, so I'm interested why you didn't necessarily go for a placement. But you know what? Even money.
His placement wasn't that good. I mean, his top 40 odds were like minus 165. Like,
hey, I think I have a minus 175. I got a couple of them in here.
I think I got his top 30 odds at like minus 105. And I could get him over EVR at plus 100. Gotcha. So the fact that I can get better odds in a matchup as opposed to just betting him top 30 was something where I was like, hey, you know what? Like, I don't love EVR this week over the moon. So I'm going to take the chance on the Jake Knapp over EVR matchup.
I'll trust you.
Yeah. All right, we going winners first or wild card picks?
No, let's go wild card. I smacked one last week.
Go for it. You first.
I'm going Nate Lashley miscut.
Oh,
so one guy in the entire field I said don't play. I mean, outside of like a Charlie Hoffman, but he does not fit this mold. He fits a mold where it's position play. He fits a mold where it's getting on the green and putt. And we're looking at a minus 24 finish, which you take that's probably a 5 or a 6 under cut.
Yep.
He's going to be close to that line. He was one of like the top 15 guys on sports books. But he's going to be close to that cut line, I think. And I'm really predicting he's going to be on the flop.
I'm curious both. Well, his odds at plus 175 are good. I'm also curious on Charlie Hoffman's odds for making the cut or for missing the cut.
That'll probably be out Wednesday night. Unfortunately, it's a lot of miscut. and stuff like that, we record on Monday evening, where odds are being put up for the next 48 hours. So we're kind of in the loop here.
Yeah, I think Charlie Hoffman miscut number would be an interesting number to keep an eye on, though.
10, probably even money.
Really?
I think
you think even money? Well, all right, maybe I'm a little less high on that than I thought. I thought the odds would be a little better.
Well, it could be a trap bet. So what they're saying is, everybody that's casual has seen Charlie Hoffman, and they're going to give you plus 105 that he makes the cut. A lot of people are going to take that.
Yeah, that's true.
They're smart.
That makes sense. All right. Well, for my wild card pick, again, I'm picking a guy who has not played well, but again, this is the course he would. Give me Callum Tarrant, top 40 at plus 200. So there's a reason why it's a wild card bet. Do I feel uber confident in it? No. But I think that, again, if he's going to play well anywhere, it's here. Guy literally only does good with a driver. So he's going to be my wild card pick for the week to keep an eye on.
Awesome. And then we'll jump into winners. The GOAT, Keith Mitchell. When he's on, he's on. Putting is not going to be a factor this week unless it's for lags on your eagle chances. But this guy's a baller. When he is on his game, he is on his game. I almost went Thorbjorn Olesen because there's no way we're getting that 3 more times this year. But Keith Mitchell, I think, really, really fits the mold here. And then I went Davis Riley. Only time I'm ever going to use him is the Zurich Classic and maybe here. He's got the ability to go deep in the birdie range. And I'm kind of finding that Davis Riley in some of these weird events is probably going to finish in the leaderboard or scratch that 52nd place. So I might as well throw him in here, call it a day on my 3 ball, and leave it at that.
Yeah, I love Keith Mitchell. I think he's one of the better options. I'm a little surprised you didn't go Hoyard, personally. I figured that would have been
Hoyard's a little bit high for a second guy.
Well, I was talking to your first guy. I figured you'd be extremely high on him this week, but I think you already used him once.
Maybe. I don't know. Hoyard, for me, I don't think he's going to win this week. He's got that little 3/4 bunt swing, and I think a lot of these guys are going to finish on the leaderboard, especially top 5 are going to separate themselves with hitting a 7-iron instead of a 5-iron.
Yeah, that makes sense. All right, for my winners picks, I've had this first guy written down on here for 3 weeks. Basically, the moment I knew that he was going to play in this tournament, I chose him as a winner. I had a futures bet on him initially when he first said he was going to play this event at 12-1. So
Tony, when he rejected joining Live.
Exactly. Tony Finau is my first winners pick. I love him this week. If you don't use him this week, you're probably using him again in like Detroit or in the 3M up in Minneapolis, maybe if he plays there. One of those couple of events that he usually plays good at every year. But again, this field is so weak, I totally get going to Tony Finau. The other option is if you want a guy at over 100-1 odds, which again has hit most weeks of the year, Joseph Bramlett is exactly 100-1 odds. I don't hate that choice. And again, this is the kind of course that would fit Joseph Bramlett molds. And I have a gut feeling it could be a bit of a spike week for him here.
Hey, I like it. It's going to be an interesting week. Again, tee times are going to be very adjusted, so watch out for your calendar. Hope you guys, if you guys are listening on Spotify or any form of podcast, this is a video podcast on some other platforms now. So if you wanted to check out what we look like or what we're interested in, that'll be on socials and YouTube as well. And if you got this far, we would really appreciate it. Takes 5 seconds. We don't ask for anything. Leave a comment. Did you like the podcast? Leave us a review. Let us know what you want to see or anything like that. We really do appreciate it. And then throughout the week, obviously, check out our socials. We'll get you some extra bets and some more content.
Yeah, 5 stars is appreciated too. Ideally, don't leave us a comment and give us 1 star. But I get it. No worries. All right, we will leave you guys here with the Mexico Open at Vidanta. Unfortunately, we cannot go down to this tournament. I would love to personally hang out in Mexico for the week, especially with the fun weather everybody's been having over here in the States. But unfortunately, that's not the case. We will see you guys next week at the no longer Honda Classic. It is now
the worst event title in history.
The Classic at the Palm Beaches.
Oh, wow. It's called the Cognizant Classic.
Is that what it is now? Okay, I think I have the old name of it. I have the Classic at the Palm Beaches, but the Cognizant Classic. Oh boy, that's the
Cognizant Classic in the Palm Beaches. You're an idiot. First of all, gosh darn it, PGA Tour.
And anyways, guys, we will leave you there. Let's go out. Let's have a good week, and let's win some money.
Deuces.